We're on episode number 6, and today we're going to talk about camera accessories. The first thing I want to talk about are lens filters. And the first filter I want to talk about is the UV filter, the ultraviolet filter. Now this is a clear piece of glass, and it cuts down on the UV rays from hitting your sensor. Most people actually just use it as a lens protector though. They screw it in and it protects from dirt, dust, rain. If you feel that that's something that you need for your camera, then by all means, go ahead and get one of these UV filters. My recommendation would probably be to get a cheap one, but understand cheap filters are hard to clean. And so that's the trade-off. The next filter I want to talk about is a circular polarizing filter. Now this is a 2-glass type of lens or filter. And when you twist it, it can enhance or strengthen the polarizing effect. It also affects the color, so it can deepen your blues, it can deepen your greens if you like that. But what people normally use it for, I think, is to film into the water. So if you're at the beach, you're at the pool, you're at a lake, and you're trying to take some video into the water, of course you're going to get a reflection. The polarizing filter cuts through that reflection so you can see into the water. Now, another reason why people get it is to see through glass. Of course, you've got another reflection that you have to deal with, especially a car windshield. Now, think about that. It's something that you may have to do and may have to do early in your filmmaking career. Got the camera set up, pointing right through the windshield. You need to cut through the reflection so you can see your actors sitting in the front seat. So I think this is something that you probably do need to think about getting. The last filter I want to talk about is the neutral density filter, and I think this is the most important. These filters run you about $140 for a good one, but I think if you shop around, you might be able to find one that's about $40 that can do a pretty good job. And I think Hoya was one of the manufacturers that was mentioned as being a good lower end provider of some of these filters. Now, the neutral density filter cuts down on light. It limits the exposure on bright days. The way that I would use it and recommend to use it is you're inside and you're shooting with a window in the background. If it's a sunny day, that window is going to be all whited out. Take a look at this slide coming up here. You'll see what I mean. Now, in this particular picture, I think that the whited out window actually adds to the composition of this photograph. But in your movie, a whited out window is nothing more than a distraction to your audience. So you don't want to have to deal with that. Now, the ND filter is going to cut through that glare so you can see outside and make that scene and make that window look more natural, which is what you want. I will say that on professional, the big time productions, they don't really use this method. What they do is they get a roll of neutral density film, they cut it out, and then they take these parcels and they paste them on the inside of these windows. It does the same thing. It cuts the glare, the camera can see right out the window, looks great. This is actually a superior way of doing this particular problem solving. And for more than one reason, to be honest with you, but it's also very expensive and it's out of reach for people like you and I. So get the ND filter. Now, not all ND filters are the same. There's quite a few out there. Which one do you need? Take a look at this next slide because I'm going to show you the numbers of the filter that I think you should be targeting. Right there, and go ahead and write them down. That's the kind of filter that I think is going to solve that window in the background problem. Okay, I want to talk about gimbals. No, I'm sorry. Before we get to that, we're going to talk about tripods. You're going to need a tripod for your camera. You probably know that. I have used a very cheap tripod for a long time. Sears, yeah, 11 years ago, $20. I still use this thing. But you're going to need something that's better than that. You're going to need a tripod with a fluid head. And a fluid head allows horizontal panning back and forth, very smooth, very quiet. And that's something that I think all filmmakers should have. Now, I've seen a model called a Magnus VT300 tripod advertised on the internet by more than one vendor for $80. And I guess that's a pretty good price because the next step up is about $150. I've never used that particular product. I don't know if it's any good or not, but I do know that Magnus makes a tripod that goes over $1,000. So I'm thinking, you know what? I think Magnus knows tripods. So take a look at getting something like that. Here's a twist for you. You need 2 tripods. Why? Well, I'll explain that to you in the next episode. But for right now, let's just say and remember, you need 1 good tripod and you need another one that's a cheapie, like mine. You know what? Get it used. It'll work just fine. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is going to be a gimbal. And a gimbal is a device that helps to stabilize your camera. I'm thinking that you're probably going to need one for your action camera. Remember, I already suggested that you get an action camera for outside shots. I realize that the EIS in an action camera will give you that smooth look, but what it's doing, it's taking away the shakiness. What a gimbal does, it helps take away some of the bobs and the sways that always accompany action camera footage. And I think that's really worth it. I have one. It's called an iSteady Pro 2. Cost me $100. I think it works great, and I do recommend it. When you listen to the advertisements or see the advertisements from GoPro, they like to say that their high-end cameras don't need a gimbal because their EIS is so good. It looks like a gimbal is already attached. Okay. I think that's just sales talk. I still recommend that you get a gimbal. I think it's going to be a real asset to you and that you're going to find that very rewarding and cutting through a lot of shakiness and a lot of movement in your camera footage.